Okay, so this ternary operator is what I'm going to demonstrate here, and just give it a little bit more attention than we've given it thus far in the class, because this is an operator that you wind up using a lot in React applications. And since I'm just trying to kind of give you some prep for React, I just want to highlight this operator and give it a little bit more attention. And so let's go ahead and quickly wire up a JavaScript source file and give it the defer attribute. And let's put in a quick button click. So we're just running code on a button click div class row div class call medium 4 times 3, and inside the middle column okay, real simple markup here. And let's wire up a quick button click. Let's give our button an ID. Okay, real quick, just get a console log going. Click the button, we got a console log. Okay, we have kind of solved this other problem, and let's bring it back. You know, I think when I was teaching if-else statements for the first time, we threw out like problems such as like if you're above a certain age, you can come into the venue like 18 and up, right? You got to be 18 and up to enter this building. And so that was solved with an if-else statement. And so we'll kind of start there for this discussion. And so in order to do that, we had input from the user where we said, please enter your age. And then we had a text box for the age. And so we have a label and a text box, and these things are playing nice together. And then we would have, when we clicked on the button, we would read the value out of the text box into a variable. So we'll make a variable called user age, and we would read the textAge.value. And if we had to like do addition or something, we might want to parse that into an int, like into a whole number. And then we would put that if user age greater than or equal to 18, we would output welcome to the venue, right? So this is a problem we've solved before. So here's our paragraph with an ID of output. And we would say output dot inner text equals welcome to the venue. Otherwise, and we didn't need, if you remember, the else doesn't have parentheses, right? The if statement has a set of parentheses, means we're evaluating something, but the else didn't. In this simple case, it was true or false, very simple use case, and we would just output, instead of outputting welcome to the venue, we would say you are not old enough. Morning. Okay, so taking this back, if we say you're 5 years old, you're not old enough, 17, not old enough, 18, welcome, 19. So you want to test all these values. And of course, we're not doing any data validation. It's just simple if-else around numeric data, okay? And so this is where this concept of ternary operator comes into play. So I'm going to comment out this if-else, and very simply, a ternary operator is used in these conditions to replace the if-else. When there's a true case and a false case. Now they can be more complex, like if, else if, else if, else if. You can actually use ternary operators in those cases as well. But I'm going to start it simply before we make it more complex. Just a simple ternary operator looks something like this. So notice what I'm doing. I'm replacing an if-else with this ternary operator. Okay. Now, by the way, ternary, right? 3, right? So unary operators, unary meaning 1. You've seen unary operators when I think of a for loop. Index plus plus. Okay, plus plus is an operator that operates on one variable, right? So it's a unary operator. It is increasing the index variable. So plus plus is an example of a unary operator. All your addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, those are binary operators. So if I say const sum equals 1 plus 2, okay, this plus symbol is a binary operator. It takes something on the left and it takes something on the right, right? So that's unary, 1, binary, 2, okay? Well, the ternary operator kind of takes 3 parts. Which is kind of helps you remember what's going on. So part 1 is the condition. We want to ask, is user age greater than or equal to 18? Question mark. If it is, we'll do this, welcome to the venue. Okay, so what comes after the question mark is essentially the true block, if you will. Then you put a colon, and what comes after the colon is the false block. You're not old enough. Now, this is not written very well, because look how long that line is. We can definitely condense that down. But this is the 3 parts of the ternary operator. What comes first is the condition, followed by the question mark. If the condition is true, then you run what comes after the question mark. If it's false, you run what comes after the colon. Now, I wouldn't actually write it like this. I don't typically write it like this. And in fact, I'm almost not confident that this is going to work. Because I really wouldn't. Okay, it does work. So that's good. I was starting to second guess myself. Okay. Yeah, because this is a little bit sloppy in that, I mean, this is just one huge line of code. And you've got, really why this is sloppy is because you've got this part twice. You've got the inner text part twice. So you've got code repeating itself. So how I would clean this up would be like this, okay? You take this ternary operator and you store the result in a variable. So I'm actually going to take this out and I'm going to say welcome to the venue, colon, you're not old enough. And what you can do is you can say const result equals, okay, now result will be assigned the value, welcome to the venue, or you're not old enough. Okay, now if I clean up my And then I don't have to repeat myself with the inner text like I did before. Document. This is how you should write it. Output dot inner text. Again, why you should write it this way. Definitely, well, first off, it's just a much more readable line of code because you don't, I don't know, you don't have the code repetitiveness. It's probably the biggest piece. You don't have to side scroll to, read it. Maybe you could have put a line break in there. But now, what is this doing? This is storing the string, either welcome to the venue or you're not old enough, into the result. And then you're outputting the result in the... So that would be how I would write that. And you're going to get, you're not old enough or welcome to the venue. Okay. Now, I did mention how much this is used in React. This ternary operator is used quite a bit in React. And I'll bring in a React project to just kind of show it to you real quick. This will only take a second if I bring this in. And I think this is neat to see anyways. If I go to what's called Pet Editor, and I kind of come down here on my HTML. All right, so this line right here, if I can get everyone's attention on that line. What is this line? Well, I'm kind of looking at an input control type of radio. We all know that's a radio button on a form, right? So we're looking at a radio button, and I'm using this checked property. Well, the checked property says whether the radio button is checked by default or not. Okay, so I'm setting the checked property equal to the pet's gender. Okay, and I say, hey, the pet's gender, is it female? If it is, let's set the checked property to true. Otherwise, set the checked property to false. Right, so basically we've got a pet database and all these pets inside of a database, and the pets in this database are either male or female, and we're either by default going to be checking the radio button for whatever gender it is, right? So we got these little ternary operators, and that's just one case. That's just one case of the ternary operator, and it's just a nice condensed syntax. Think of it as a shorthand for an if-else statement. Okay. Now, I did briefly mention this could be more complex. So let's just throw out another scenario. If you're greater than 18, otherwise if you're greater than 10. Let's just say if you're between like 10 and 17, you can go to the video game parlor, whatever, right? So 18 and up, you can get anywhere. 10 to 17, you can get in, but you can only go to play video games. Otherwise, you're not old enough, right? So that's a more complex if-else, right? If we're going to write that, there's actually, well, there's 3 outputs, right? So not just 2. So how could you write that? Well, if user age is greater than 18, welcome to the venue. That would be the first, colon. Then you would say user age greater than or equal to 10, colon. You can go to the gaming parlor. How about that one? Colon. you are not old enough. This needs to be a question mark. Okay, so other than these little warnings about my spacing, okay, something like that. Okay, so now we're using this ternary like an if, else if, else if, else if block, right? So to demonstrate that, and this will kind of be where we leave it. If you say you're 18, welcome to the venue. If you're 10, you can go to the gaming parlor. If you're 9, you're not old enough, right? So if you have multiple conditions, you can still use this shorthand syntax with this ternary operator. And again, just want to say that's something that you see semi-regularly in React. Okay, so that'll stop that.